it's Sarah Jane from Cards and a Cuppa, and I want to share this 3D shaker card with you today using the new Jar of Love framelits. And we won't be using any foam pads at all, and it gives you a shaker card that is proud of the card. So I hope you can see that, or maybe on the picture I'll show at the beginning of this video. And so this is how you make it. It's quite simple. It's just a case of it's layers. That's the thing. So let's get started. So what you're going to need is the Everyday Jars framelits dies, and you're going to need the largest jar and the insert section and the lid for the jar. Stamp the largest jar from Jar of Love stamps. I'm going to use Early Espresso. I'm going to do it in a more of a crumb cake sort of base colour for this card. Change it up a little bit from the sample that I made. And then you're going to lay the framelits over the top, and this is where my first tip is to secure the jar and the cutout section together, because you're going to repeat die cutting this out several times, and if you've got it a fraction of a millimetre differently every time, they're not going to layer so well, and you're going to see the layers as you glue them together. So secure these two together, and that will make the forward stages a lot easier to do. So I'm going to die cut that out now. And that's going to pop out nice and easily like that. And I'm just going to remove this centre section. Doesn't matter because that's going in the bin anyway. And then I'm going to die cut this jar outline again now at least 6 times from crumb cake card. So now I've die cut all my jars, I can remove the centre section, and I want to cut just the outside edge from designer series paper and from acetate, which I've just done here. Now this paper that I'm using is the Serene Scenery one, which has got real life images one side and pattern paper the other, so it's a real good selection in here. And we're ready to get started. So you're going to take your stamped jar, and using your fine tip glue pen, I've just stuck the acetate layer to the back of the stamped jar, and I'm going to just leave that to one side to dry. And then I'm going to take my die cut, just die cut, no stamped jars, and you'll see because you taped the inner and the outer together that they all fit on top of each other perfectly. So all I'm going to do is I've started here, and I'm just going to use tombow to layer them up. And then as you do each layer, just go around the edges and make sure that they're all lined up nicely, so that you don't end up with any bits sticking out until you've layered them all together. Okay, so when you've done that, go back to the fine tip glue pen and add that to the top layer. And then pop your acetate and stamped image at the top, and then you're going to have to sit that to one side to dry for a little bit. because it's sticking from card to acetate, so it just takes a couple more minutes. So whilst we're doing that, I think I'll get on and do the stamping. Now I've got a crumb cake card base, which is 10.5 by 14.8, which is half A4, and I've got some of the herringbone wood effect paper, which I've cut to 10.3 by 14.6, so just 2mm smaller than the front of the card. I'm just going to stick that to the front using tombow. And then this layer of crumb cake card is 9 by 13, and so I'm just going to stamp on that with the thank you so much, and that comes from the Scenic Saying stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that in Early Espresso. So I'm sticking with the same layout, I'm just changing the colour up a bit. And then I'm going to stick that to the card front now. And now we can go back to our jar. Now you'll see here my shaker has got little apples in it, and for that I use the Tree Builder punch there, because I'm going to give mine to the teachers for the end of school. And I've added into that some bright sequins, and I've got some retired in colour sequins that I picked up on the clearance rack, and I've just mixed them together already, just so that you haven't got to sit there and watch me punch a load of apples. Pop that in and spread them out so that they don't clump together, and then this is where your full designer series paper jar comes in, and then you're just going to add tombow to the edges of your shaker. Remember to put it down with the side that you want showing facing downwards. So for this one I used the leaves on the back of this one, but I'm going to use the spotty for this one because it's darker to go with the crumb cake. And there's your little 3D shaker. Now I'm going to simply glue that onto the card front. And then I've got to just do a lid, so I'm going to use a little bit of soft suede card and Early Espresso ink again. And there's a little die to cut that out, so I'll just go and do that. And so because this is already got quite a lot of depth to it, I'm just going to glue that onto the top of my jar. I don't really want to put it on with foam pads, I think it might be a bit too much. That just finishes off the top of the jar. And then lastly I'm going to add a little bit of thick twine around the card to finish it off. And then just to stop that twisting around like that, I'm just going to pop a little drop of fine tip glue behind the knot. Just hold that down with a peg for a few minutes whilst it dries. So there you have how to make a 3D shaker card without any foam strips. So I hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial today, and there's lots more on my YouTube channel, and check out my blog. All supplies you can get through me and my Stampin' Up shop. And thanks for watching today.